1 Kinematics Example 12. This is another example of vertical motion, a little bit different to the last one. If we read the question, it's telling us that a book is falling off the top shelf of a bookcase. So it's starting at a certain height and falling downwards towards the ground. It says the shelf is 1.4 meters above a wooden floor. And we've got to work out a few different things, starting with the time the book takes to reach the floor. So for part A, the thing we're trying to find is time. Now, it would seem that we don't actually know very much here. We know that the distance that it's fallen, its displacement from the starting point at the top, is 1.4. What else do we know? Well, we know that the acceleration due to gravity is 9.8. Now, because this book is moving downwards and gravity acts downwards, I think I'm going to take downwards as positive on this question. It doesn't matter which way you take it in any question as long as you're consistent with all your measurements. So I'm going to take downwards as positive, which means 9.8 is positive. Now, it looks like we haven't got enough, but if you read the question, it says the book falls off the top shelf. So we can assume that it's starting from rest. It wasn't thrown down towards the floor, it just fell off. So its initial speed was 0. So working with the same equation, remember always to write out the equation that you're using. S equals ut plus half at squared. We know that s is 1.4. U was 0, so 0 times t is just 0 for that first part. And then we've got a half times a times t squared. So the 0 just goes. Half of 9.8 is 4.9. And so to solve it, we would divide by 4.9. That gives us an expression for t squared. And then take the square root, and that will give us an expression for t. If you work all that out on your calculator, t works out to be 0.534 and so on. So if we're given our answer to 2SF, because that was how accurate our value of g was, it would be 0.53 seconds, which seems like a reasonable answer. It's not a long way above the ground, so half a second to hit the ground seems reasonable. We've also got to work out the speed with which the book hits the floor. Well, we've got the same scenario as earlier. This time we want to know v. We know v, u, a and s, so I would probably use v squared equals u squared plus 2as. You could use an identity with t, an equation with t in it, but t is possibly wrong because you've worked it out yourself. So I would always use the values given in the question if you possibly can. Okay, so we've got u squared is 0, and then we've got 2 times a times s. Okay, so if you work that out and then take the square root, of course, v works out to be the square root of whatever 2 times 9.8 times 1.4 is. And if you type all of that into your calculator, I think it works out to be 5.238. And so if we're rounding to 2SF, it would be 5.2. And because it's a speed, it would be meters per second.